Hey ladies and gents, welcome back. This is going to be part 2 to What If Naruto Was a Hyuga. So for the next part of this, we'll just get this episode to, we'll say 100 likes. I'll lower the like goals because people still watch them, but the like goals haven't been hitting their mark. I'm just going to say that. So where I left off, everybody was heading to the bridge where they once again met up with Haku and Zabuza. So now that we got that out of the way, let's jump right back into What If Naruto Was a Hyuga. So, Sasuke begins his fighting with Haku while Kakashi begins fighting with Zabuza. This happens because, obviously, Sasuke wants his chance to fight because Hinata and Naruto were the ones fighting before, while Sasuke kind of just guarded the bridge builder. So, now with his time to shine, he jumps in and starts fighting Haku. So their fight goes similarly up until where he gets trapped inside of the ice mirrors thingamabobbers. So when he does get trapped in there, Naruto tells Hinata that he's going to go help Sasuke, you stay here and guard Tazuna. So obviously Naruto goes and he goes into the middle. And he can pretty clearly actually see where where Haku's going back and forth. You can actually kind of see it. And he's now just using his different jutsu. He's trying to actually either break some of the mirrors so Haku can't, transport himself into it. And he's also trying to actually land an attack on Haku himself, just trying to knock him out of the way of where the mirrors are, just so we can get him outside of them. So he starts using air palms and different techniques like that, and he even uses the two twin lions barrage and slams them into some of the mirrors. And he actually does manage to shatter some of them, but quickly realizes that this isn't going to work because the mirrors just kind of regenerate themselves, and then it kind of leaves Naruto with nothing really to do. Or nothing to do, but Naruto can't actually destroy them quick enough to destroy all of them. So he resorts to a different tactic, where instead of trying to break the mirrors, he now goes for Haku himself. After a few attempts, he finally does manage to hit Haku just with a simple air palm. It doesn't do much, but it veers Haku from his course, making him go into a different mirror instead. Naruto uses this to advantage and shatters the mirror that Haku was in, but just before Naruto could shatter it, Haku flings himself to a different mirror. Naruto, now actually kind of gaining a gist of what's going on around him, and learning to adapt to this battle, he continues his fight, now with a little bit more confidence in his ability to fight. So now he looks over to Hinata for a brief moment, and he gets distracted at this moment. He looks at Hinata because just to make sure that Zabuza isn't attacking her, just because he didn't know if Kakashi actually had the true strength to actually defeat his opponent. So he looks over to Hinata for a brief moment, and when he does this, a bunch of Senbon needles fly out of nowhere and are about to kill him. Or not kill him, but pierce him, and Sasuke jumps in front of this, and this is where Naruto's eyes turn orange, and a giant orange chakra cloak bursts around him. Naruto has gained a full cloak, and when this happens, not only does his physical power, power him up, but his Byakugan also takes a slightly different form. It now looks like he has blood-red eyes, with no pupils, no nothing, and it almost seems like he made his own dojutsu, but we'll see if that happens in the future. So they continue the battle, now with Naruto having a severe power boost from what he just had, and he completely wrecks Haku and sends him flying through one of his mirrors. All the mirrors shatter after this because Haku loses his focus, and all of the mirrors follow. So Naruto now runs over, and he's about to deal the finishing blow on Haku when Haku disappears and appears in front of Zabuza. Tanking the blow that would have just killed Zabuza, Haku falls to the ground lifeless. Zabuza, after a little bit more of a brief skirmish, then is about to be killed when the actual gang leader shows up, and obviously Zabuza goes and he kills them all. Now, with Haku and Zabuza both dead, they head back to the village after a relatively successful mission. And after a while of being back at the village, Kakashi walks up to them one day and says, "You guys should try for the Chunin exams. I feel like you guys are strong enough to do that." So they try out for the Chunin exams, and obviously they all get into the Chunin exams and start with the written exams. So the written exams go differently. Naruto and Hinata both just kind of do what Sasuke did. They all cheat by looking at the hand movements of other people, or doing other things like looking at their chakra flow and how this would impact what they're writing down. I don't know if that's actually how it works, but I'm going to say it is. So that's what they do. And they all passed the written exams really easily, actually getting pretty high scores. Or at least higher scores than what they did, other than Sasuke, obviously. He got the same score. Hinata and Naruto both getting higher scores, because not only did they cheat, but they're also really smart in this. So they begin the next part of the Chunin exams, which is the Forest of Death. So when they begin the Forest of Death, it goes the same up until where Naruto is trying to go to the take piss. And when he is doing this, there's a giant snake that comes, and Naruto kind of just uses an air palm and sends it flying into a tree. Naruto now runs up to the snake and knocks it out. He then runs over to where his two teammates used to be and sees that there's a Naruto imposter there who perfectly recites what Sasuke had in mind for his little test. And when he does this, Sasuke and Hinata don't really think much of it because, again, Naruto's a lot smarter than he used to be. So with that, Naruto leaps in and punches Orochimaru across the face, undoing his transformation. Everybody now seeing that this obviously wasn't the real Naruto, then gang up and attack him. Using a pretty decent show of teamwork, Hinata, Naruto, and Sasuke all attack Orochimaru in sync. Actually managing to land a few decent blows, Orochimaru's actually pretty impressed, and he's like, oh, well, not only do we have Uchiha brat here, but there's two Hyugas on this team as well. It's kind of interesting. And that one actually has the Nine Tails. So with this, the battle continues on, and Naruto is actually learning something new. During his battle, due to him having not only wind and lightning style, he has actually adapted them into his fighting style while he was doing the training with Kakashi. Not only did he learn the Chidori like he did when he was doing it with Kakashi, but he actually also managed to harness the wind style. And what he did was, instead of doing what the Raikage did and make a lightning cloak around him, Naruto has mastered the ability of wind style, so he makes a wind style like barrier around himself, which not only increases his defenses and cuts anybody who comes in contact with him, but it also increases his speed and strength considerably. So now with Naruto having a clear edge in taijutsu over even Orochimaru, although Orochimaru is definitely in a suppressed state, Naruto is actually quite impressive to Orochimaru, and Orochimaru decides that he too will give Naruto a curse mark as well as Sasuke. So, after giving them a curse mark and leaving them on the floor, pretty much unconscious, Hinata brings them back to the tree. And when this happens, this is where they are encountered by the three Sound Genin. And when they attack, Hinata is actually managing to hold her own against one, but again, there are three of them. This is where Lee comes in handy as well. And Lee does manage to take out one of them with the reverse lotus because the other one isn't there to help him out. Lee is out of commission. So it is still a 2-on-1, but Hinata is faring a little bit better than she was originally. Or, not originally, but before Lee took out one of them. But she can't really actually manage to defeat both of them at the same time. So she screams for Naruto and Sasuke's help, and with that, both of them come awake. And they now look and see what's going on around them, both activating their curse marks at the same time and leaping at the two of them. Almost killing both of them instantly, they both actually, instead of what they do in the original, they completely tear the arms off of both of their opponents, completely ripping their arms off. Both of the two Sound Genin leave, and they're screaming in shock and horror at what just happened. They are definitely not going to be fighting in the finals of the exams. So, they now have the scroll they need, and they head back to the end of the Forest of Death. And they're now in the preliminary rounds of the actual last part. So, when this happens, Naruto obviously completely pretty much kills Kiba and wrecks him. Now, Hinata would actually fight Ino, and she would obviously win by like a massive long shot. Sasuke would fight his same opponent and win just like he did in the original because he isn't really affected by Naruto being a Hyuga. So the battles go on, kind of like normally from there, and now they have the 1 month gap in between where the preliminaries and the finals began. So with that, they did their 1 month of training, with Naruto mastering his effect with the cloak of the wind style. Hinata just perfected more 8 trigrams and, all those different things, and she actually works her way up to mastering the 128 palms. So with that, they begin the finals of the exams. And Neji was actually fighting Sakura instead, because that's how it was drawn out, so obviously Neji won. And now this is where things are slightly different from what they were before. So Naruto would fight Neji, and unlike Neji, Naruto is not only an insane prodigy, but he also, Neji did work hard, but Naruto worked much, much harder than him, so he completely wrecks Neji. Gaara fights Sasuke, and that fight goes literally exactly the same. And Hinata would actually be going up against Temari. So now, once Gaara transforms in his partially transformed state, he completely wrecks Sasuke. And this is where they get taken out into the woods. And once Naruto shows up, he pretty much completely wrecks Gaara up until Gaara completely transforms himself. And now Naruto uses his wind-style cloak, and now with his speed easily 10 times what it was before, and his strength probably about the same, he now charges at Gaara. And with every punch, Gaara gets a little bit bloodier, not really knowing what's happening, and then he realizes that every time Naruto punches him, it's like literally getting stabbed. His wind-style chakra is literally cutting him as he goes along. So Naruto finally completely beat Gaara to the ground, and Gaara now is his normal self again, and he's laying on the ground almost dead. And Naruto walks up to him, but Gaara does the same thing that he does in the original, and is pretty much like, okay, maybe I'll be a little bit more like you. And he pretty much does that. So with that being over, it's the end of the Chunin exams, with Naruto, Hinata, Temari, Shikamaru, and Gaara all being promoted to Chunin. So that's where I'm going to leave this part off. I'll see you guys in the next part of What If Naruto Was a Hyuga? See you later. Peace out.